Welcome, dear viewers, to a new edition of News on One Weekly, the show on One Africa, where we ask invited guests to discuss a topic that aired on One Africa's daily bulletin called News on One in greater detail. I'm your presenter, Joseph Shifeni. Our guests for this edition include the managing editor of One Africa's daily news bulletin, News on One, Selma Ikela, and the broadcast editor of the Future Media, David Bishop. Welcome, guests, to this edition.
Right. Thank you for having us.
The start of 2023 has seen the education sector dominating the Namibian media landscape, from the disappointing grade 11 and 12 results to parents struggling to find placement in schools to enroll their children and flooding in the north, forcing some schools to close, impacting learners, guardians, and teachers. In this episode, we will be looking at these issues from a media perspective. Before we delve into that discussion, let's have a look at the story News on One ad.
Kavihuha stated that the only viable solution to fix the current challenges in the education system is for the top management to adapt to new approaches in dealing with education matters. Kavihuha shared his sentiments after the top leadership in the Ministry of Education, Arts and Culture submitted a report to the head of state, President Hage Geingob, recently.
If a president was serious in terms of wanting to bring change, that meeting with the top management, yes, he should have called the other role players as well to hear our side. But if he thinks that he will get one-sided information, he will bring change, then I think that was just a talk show. And it's just a windscreen kind of things. We're not serious. That shows that the president is not even serious. Because if you are serious, you should have talked to the teachers. Why? You talk to the management. Why? You talk to the learners, student organization. Why? You talk to the parents, civil society organization around. Why? But if you are just calling the one that you appointed to come and talk to you why things are getting wrong, while everybody knows that they are the one who's making things wrong, what do you expect? So the bottom line is that the leadership need to change. Whether it's a self-change while they are there, or those that can be removed can be removed.
Kavihuha claimed that the revised curriculum did not improve the desired results as initially expected by stakeholders.
If we go and argue with the curriculum itself, there is problems because of the qualities of those that have to proceed to areas, being minimum of Cs, 3 Cs, the rest are not, and plus the preparation, and plus even the content alignment to time allocated. When we get independence, we wanted to change everything, which way we shoot ourselves in the foot. Now the solution was, can we reintroduce back the 2 stream? The only issue have brought that stream, that's all. The bottom line is very clear, is that if we get a serious Minister of Education tomorrow, he will get away with his nonsense.
No, it's not the current leadership, because imagine that from 2011, that was Dr. Yambo who was still there, and the different, EDs or permanent secretaries and directors. Some have retired. Now we are with the third minister. So it's a process. People came on board. You cannot point a finger only an ED who just started last year, or maybe the third minister, or the new director of something else. So this is the process which is run by a team of people, not one person.
That because they're intelligent animals, and you fool them once but not the second time. That process of attracting them to us was very successful. They came out of the thickets, and we selected the spot for the darting quite carefully, in the sense that once the lions are immobilized, they can't now move into an inaccessible area like thick reeds or mountains or rocky bits.
Let's start our discussion now with David. David, what was your reaction to the results of the Namibia Senior Secondary Certificate and Advanced Subsidiary levels?
Well, I mean, shock at first, obviously disappointment, but if we're honest, probably a bit of acceptance in a way. It's not like it's something new. We've seen this happening. We've seen the results have been disappointing for many, many years. There've been some glimmers of hope in certain years, but generally, we've almost unfortunately come to expect these kind of results.
Selma, same question. What was your initial reaction?
For me, I think the results were very devastating, to a point that I think for the first time we've seen the president seeking an audience with the Ministry of Education officials. I think this just goes to a point that the president also wants to understand where the challenges are and how they can be addressed. But as David alluded to, I think the results are a manifestation of what has been happening in the system all along. And some of these problems, we are aware of them, such as learners in primary school unable to attain satisfactory numeracy and literacy levels. So I think this is just a manifestation of what has been happening from the beginning.
David, what have been some of the reasons put forward for the poor results from a media perspective, and what is your take on that?
I mean, looking at the stories, obviously, while the president said, let's not point fingers, everyone straight away started pointing fingers. The minister was blaming the teachers union was blaming lack of resources. And like Selma said as well, it's a manifestation. It is something that's been coming. We see the stories about children being educated under trees. We see tent schools. We see, desks, children having to share desks, one textbook for an entire classroom. So it's not something as much as the president's, taking notice of it this year. Skeptics might say he's taking notice because it's, we've got elections coming up. This has been happening for a long time. We could have paid attention to it, in the past. But so in the media, the reasons are there. I don't think it's fair to straight out blame teachers. I don't think it's necessarily fair to straight out blame the Ministry of Education or the Minister of Education herself. There are myriad reasons. There is still the legacy of the past. There is still the fact that we've got such vast distances between towns, our sort of lacking IT infrastructure. So there are so many problems, but a lot of them I think are problems that have been highlighted by the media throughout the years and perhaps should have been addressed already.
Selma, what is your opinion on the way forward, since there has been a lot of finger pointing regarding the poor results, especially from the stakeholders?
I think the way forward is, I think I'll just echo David's word. I think everybody, especially the ministry officials, the government officials, are aware of the problems that are facing the education sector. And I think one serious one, with the revised curriculum, introducing the pre-primary grades at the schools, I think it has also contributed to shortages of classrooms, because previous grade 1 classes, I think they needed to divide the classes to also accommodate the pre-primary pupils, but there were no additional classrooms built. So you would also ask now, if the government failed to build classrooms, were they even able to provide study material for these young ones? And I've heard of personal stories of family members or learners in my family that are complaining, that are in secondary school, and they're complaining that they haven't gotten certain textbooks in certain classes. So they are either sharing or the school just cannot afford to give these learners. And I have seen the devastating results that in most cases, these are the learners that end up not doing well. And I think really going forward, I think the government and the ministry must just be honest with themselves and really start addressing these problems. I mean, we are all aware of them. What more do you want to be told? It's like you have a leaking roof. You know that in summer it does not leak, but during the rainy season, that's where you want to run around like a headless chicken. You know, I mean, just solve the problem.
So if I can jump in there, I mean, you know, like Selma's saying, the lack of classrooms and, you know, whatever the reason for that is, and the president's now saying we need to urgently build more classrooms, and at the same time, they're saying they're going to sort of cut down on the teacher-student ratio, which now means you need even more classrooms, or you need to do the sort of platoon system. But it sort of goes back to, have we had our priorities right the entire time? There are schools. There was a story in the news the other day about a school in Havana that's been sitting uncompleted. It's about 90% built, but it can't be opened because it's not finished. So, you know, we need to definitely make a plan there.
Exactly.
And the question will be, do we even have the finances to implement some of this stuff?
It's also one of the challenges, I would say. We are now going for a quick commercial break, and we'll continue this discussion after this.
When we look at the size of our businesses, we often think of SMEs as almost startups and very small businesses.
Right. And after that, we'll be diving into a discussion about the domestic tourism sector in Namibia.
So for more than 35 years, we've been trying to put Namibia on the map, and I think we have succeeded. We've come a long way.
Welcome back. We are continuing this discussion on the state of education with media specialists. David, another issue related to education has been getting placement for learners in schools for the new year. In your view, and from what has been reported in the media, what impact could this have, and what should be considered moving forward?
I think it's just another hurdle that these poor children are having to face. I mean, it ties into what we were discussing about a lack of classrooms, a lack of schools. Clearly, we need a lot more schools. We need a lot more classrooms available. We need a lot more teachers, and we need to be paying a lot more attention to the education sector. But so now you've got children who were ready, who were looking forward to starting their school year, whether it be their first year of school, their first year of high school, or even just any other year. And now it's 2 weeks into the school year, and they're still sitting, and they're having to sit outside of school every day, or their parents are having to, and having to miss work to sit outside of school, hoping against hope that they might get a place in that school. So the ministry has said, well, you know, and I understand some parents will register at numerous schools, and then they'll choose one, but they don't cancel the registration, so the ministry can't know. So there are valid arguments for, I suppose, the fact that some kids aren't placed, but the system of waiting to see does the children no favors.
Selma, the issue of placement continues to resurface. What is your take on that?
Mm-hmm. I think I'll repeat the words of the Teachers Union of Namibia Secretary General, where he pointed out, or he explained the situation that we are sitting with the issue because government is also failing to plan ahead. They are not, they're ignoring the birth rates of a particular year and planning ahead. I think to simply put it, it's like you look at your birth rates and then you decide that, in 7 years' time, I think we'll have a number of these grade 1 learners or pre-primary school learners that will be starting school. Hence, we need to have a number of particular classes or schools available. And by the looks of things, I think, to be honest, I think there have been really a few classes that we have seen that have been constructed. I think that's why we are sitting with this problem. And it also boils down to having overcrowded classrooms, although the government has now they just announced the other day that they are trying to like control the learner-teacher ratio. I'm not so sure, because it's not things that they are really explaining how it will work, because I think we'll still end up with overcrowded classrooms, and we all know that it's in these setups where those slow learners that need special attention lag behind, and they are the ones that will, like in the results that we saw now, so these are the learners that will have, like in a few years' time, that will not make it in the system at all, and end up on the street.
You've got a class of 40. How does a teacher give individual attention? They just don't have the time to do that, to give that sort of individual attention. And speaking to your point of planning ahead, and it ties in with the other issue that last year we saw the census cancelled, and like the statistician general says, you can't plan without accurate statistics and planning ahead, knowing exactly what the situation is.
David, the media reported on the closure of schools in the north due to flooding. What is the media's role when a challenge like this comes up?
I think, it's to inform everyone. It almost becomes fatalistic in a way. Every year you sit in the newsroom and the Ifunja is coming, and we're watching and we're waiting for it, and you know what the results are going to be, and almost every year when it does come, the results are the same. The towns get flooded, the schools get cut off. And I've seen people on social media, again, when it comes to the idea of a lack of planning, and, failing to plan is planning to fail. Mm-hmm. And ordinary citizens on social media are saying, the Ifunja comes almost every single year. How are we still caught by surprise? So it's our job as a media to tell people that it's happening, to highlight the fact that it's happening. Maybe that will motivate people to speak up and to start demanding some kind of change and some kind of forward planning.
But just to add to that, because you're saying that we need to plan ahead, what I read, of course, the media has an important or significant role to play in this regard, because they also inform the rest of the public how fast the flood is moving. But then they also need support, accurate information from Ministry of Agriculture's officials, and I think in this particular instance, the hydrologists. But then the few media reports that I've read is that the hydrologists were complaining that the flood monitoring instruments were vandalized by the public. So it also makes it difficult for them to inform the public in advance.
Exactly. Before we could go for a commercial break, Selma, I actually have one more question for you. There's a lot of stakeholders in the education sector. What is your take on stakeholders' responses in addressing educational concerns?
Is it on the Ifunja or education in general?
In general.
I think there's a lot of concern. If I have to touch specifically on the results, I think we have seen the unions, the political parties, the general public sharing their 2 cents. And I think it just goes to show that everybody is really concerned, because at the end of the day, this 38, I'm trying to say, so it's 8,000, so it's 30 plus students that didn't make it. So these learners come from people's homes. They have parents, they have guardians. So you are actually sitting with this child that didn't make it to the next grade. And some really just didn't get satisfactory results at all. You are sitting with a student that has U's, E's. So you sort of asking yourself, how do I help this child, or how does the system assist me? Is this child even eligible to be registered at a vocational training center? So I think people are really raising serious concern, and we all know that education is a game changer, and it's a catalyst for sustainable economic growth. And if we don't have a skilled nation, it means that we won't become an industrialized nation.
Do you think they are listening to each other? I mean, amongst these challenges facing this? Do you think they are listening to each other? Just briefly.
No.
Are they meeting each other?
No, and we have seen trade unions, especially the opposition ones. They are demanding an audience, I think, with the Ministry of Education and with the president. And these are people that are, some of the leaders in these unions, they are former teachers. I'm sure they also have something important to share with the ministry or with the president.
All right. We are now going for another quick commercial break, and we'll be right back after this with our invited guests.
Sibo and Mo at breakfast from 6 to 10 a.m. on the nation's favorite radio station, playing the best hip-hop, urban, Afro, and R&B on 99 FM.
Welcome back. We are continuing the discussion on some of the challenges facing the education sector with our media specialists. David, the media has an instrumental role to play in informing the public. In your view, has the media been successful in reporting on some of the issues affecting the education system?
Yeah, I think the media, they've definitely, it's something that has been covered. I mean, as we've spoken about, it's not a new thing that the media has suddenly woken up to this year and are reporting on. If you look back at historical bulletins and historical newspaper front pages, you know, the education crisis.
It's been all about education.
It's been an ongoing crisis, you know, since independence, because yes, the crisis was adopted, was taken over. You know, we didn't arrive at independence with a beautifully working education system, and it was a challenge for the government. But the fact that, you know, however many years later, it's still a crisis, just means that it hasn't sort of been addressed. And I don't think that's due to a lack of coverage by the media. I think we have been speaking. Whether we've been listened to is a different story.
Selma, credible news sources are vital in getting accurate information. How easy or difficult has it been to get information on educational concerns from stakeholders? And in your view, are public relation officers generally cooperative in responding timely to inquiries for information, knowing that the media has deadlines?
I should say that maybe looking at the impact of the results, it is as if everybody has something to share on the current result. So getting credible sources, be it the political parties. In fact, LPM hosted their own seminar today on the challenges facing the secondary education sector. Political analysts are available. And I should say that in this particular instance, I should say that the executive director of the Ministry of Education, Ms. Sanet Steenkamp, has been available. And if she's unable to answer on a particular matter, she has been able to refer journalists to capable officials in the ministry, and they have been forthcoming, I should say that. I think they are sort of aware that there's sort of a huge problem in front of them right now. And if you continue ignoring them, or if you are unable to share your comment, it sort of also shows as if you don't care. So I think, yeah, they have been forthcoming in providing the necessary, from One Africa side, they have been providing us with the necessary comments that we need.
David, do you concur with Selma's sentiments?
Yeah, I think it's getting better. I mean, in the industry, we all know there are some people that you can always phone, that you can always talk to, and that will always be willing to talk to you. You know, there are some people that you don't even bother with, and you're not going to get any kind of comment from that person or from that ministry or you know, that body. But I think sort of Selma touched on it, and you know, Sanet Steenkamp is one of those people that is always forthcoming and that has always been available to the media. But I do think that let's say that if government or if the ministry has a vested interest in talking to us, then they're more willing to talk to us. And I think you hit the nail on the head there. In this situation, they know they have to talk to us, because if they are seen to not be talking to us, the public is going to go, well, our kids are failing and you don't even care. So when there's interest for government to talk to the media, it's easier for the media to get the government to talk to us. But yeah, like I say, there's some people that just don't even bother.
As we come to the end, any concluding remarks, David?
Well, I mean, I think on the topic of education, as we've said, it's something that now especially everybody's talking about this year. It's something that I think I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours about, the state of education, where we've been going, how the current education system, not even just in the government sector, but in private schooling, education in general across the world, isn't fit for purpose, how it needs to be sort of redesigned. We have ministers talking about the fourth industrial revolution every single day, but, we have no government schools and very few private schools offering things like coding and robotics and, looking at the fourth industrial revolution and how do we educate our population for that. And yes, we've just had a syllabus renewal and a syllabus redesign, but if we don't look at these things as a nation very, very carefully, Namibia is going to be left behind again.
Selma, last words?
I think I would just urge the Ministry of Education to really look at their recommendations and really implement them. I don't think they should take on big chunks, but maybe each step. Had they started back then by building a number of classrooms per year, training teachers on the revised curriculum, I don't think we would have been sitting in this situation that we are in right now. I think we know the importance of education, and it's the reason why you and I are sitting here, because we sort of got some sort of training and education to be able to carry out certain, duties as an employed person. So education is a game changer, and I think as a country, if we really want to achieve our sustainable development goals, we should also focus on providing a quality education. It will go a long way, and we all know this. I don't know why we keep on ignoring it, honestly. Yeah.
Selma, David, thank you once again for having available time to join us in this discussion, in this very important matter.
Thank you. Anytime.
All right. And that brings us to the end of this edition of News on One Weekly. Thank you for joining us. We trust that you found the discussion interesting. Till we see each other again, from me, Joseph Shifeni, it's goodbye for now.
DJ is too busy. We are giving you all things, everything. Our DJ is on the decks. Join me, Shay Ulenga, for all this and more on the Tribe exclusive